Good evening, Little Masters, and welcome to episode 19 of the Rings of Power Wrap-Up.
It's time to pull up a bench here in the common room, folks. I'm James Tauber, the Sage of the South.
And I'm Sara Brown, Shield Maiden of Rohan. We're both here with the Man of the West, Alan Sisto.
And tonight, we're going to be talking about the episode named Udun, which most folks don't know is actually Sindarin for orcs are people too.
Who knew? Well, Galadriel certainly doesn't, but that's another story. A quick welcome for those of you joining us for the first time here at the Rings of Power Wrap-Up. We talk about the plot, characters, and lore behind Amazon's The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power.
And we also dive into some of Tolkien's biggest themes, like mortality, free will, fellowship, and volcanology. We also do our fair share of speculating.
You'll learn something new about Middle-earth every time you listen. We hope you have a few laughs in the process. We're glad you've joined us.
And we hope you'll be glad you joined as well. Before we talk about this week's episode, we want to remind you that if you want some company as you read the books that Tolkien wrote, you should check out Alan's original show, The Prancing Pony Podcast.
For over 6 years and 5 million downloads, Alan and his co-host Sean Marchese walked their way through Tolkien's legendarium, from the Silmarillion to the Hobbit, and this season, the podcast is starting The Return of the King.
Some say that the PPP is the finest Tolkien podcast this side of Bree, but of course you won't hear me saying that. That's a little self-serving. And while Sean has recently stepped down as co-host, I am still there, and this season I'm going to be co-hosting the episodes with a real all-star lineup of folks from the Tolkien community. Humbly, I would like to think that there is no better companion for your extended trip through Middle-earth than the Prancing Pony Podcast.
Now, before we get to this week's release, do we have any clarifications to make from last week's episode?
Clarifications, maybe even maybe a fix or two. I'll start with one that was my fault. I was very flustered during our discussion that they referred to, and I say they, I mean Celebrimbor, referred to Eärendil as a mortal man when he is in fact half elven. But it means that he really is considered a mortal man in terms of his arrival in Valinor. And if we go to the Silmarillion, we see that, right? We read, Mandos spoke concerning his fate, and he said, shall mortal man step living upon the undying lands and yet live? But Ulmo said, for this he was born into the world, and say unto me, whether is he Eärendil Tuor's son of the line of Hador, or the son of Idril, Turgon's daughter of the elven house of Finwë. So, in my defense, it wasn't even entirely clear to the Valar.
Right. I think this is one of those things when we talk about, the term half-elven gets so associated with Elrond in particular, and to a lesser extent Elros. But really, it equally applies to, I think it's 6 different people or something. From Dior onwards, Dior is half-elven and so on. And it's not really clear what it meant. I've always, still to this day, wondered, did Elrond change when he made the decision, or did he just remain as he was? And Elros
did his ears
was the
become
one that
pointy?
Changed. Exactly. Did Elros grow a beard the moment that he made his decision? If we follow that particular imagery. But yeah, so it's a difficult question. Yeah. The Valar get confused, we get confused. I think that's entirely understandable.
Good point.
Do you think that's because there was never meant to be or never foreseen a connection in that way between the two peoples? Is that why the Valar are confused? Because they never sat down and said, okay, so what happens if elf meets human and they have elfy human-y babies?
Yeah, it was always that was always sort of the Ilúvatar's department, right? It was the Valar weren't that particularly involved in anything to do with
the children,
elves and humans. Yeah, they were the children. So yeah,
the Valar are generally often confused, aren't they? That's sort of kind of one of their states of being when it comes to the children, at least.
Yeah,
yes.
They occasionally have to kick the question upstairs, don't they?
Yeah, that is true. They regularly kick the question upstairs. Hey, Manwë, can you make a call? You got to talk to your boss about this. Yeah, that's a good point. So, again, okay, I maybe shouldn't have made such a big deal out of it because he is a mortal man in some respects. I think my gripe with it was just the fact that it seemed to be a way of condescending.
Pejorative, yeah.
Exactly, a way of dismissing Eärendil as merely a mortal man. And also, of course, a way of kind of putting Elrond in his place, being Eärendil's son. So I think I still have to fall on my sword for one more. I think, I'm not sure if it got through the edit or not, but I mentioned something about, of course, Celebrimbor was there when Eärendil sailed off. And it's simply because in my mind, I was thinking of him as Círdan and not Celebrimbor. So really, he may not have been there lore-wise, but we don't know.
In your defense, there's been a lot of interaction between Celebrimbor and Elrond that feels to me more like we would expect from Círdan and Elrond.
And since Círdan is not there, apparently he's off with Celeborn doing some very important missions for the High King. You know, I think we can be forgiven for that. Yeah.
And I think, you know, it's easy to get mixed up. I mean, goodness knows I get completely mixed up between all the L's beginning with F. So why not get mixed up between the L's beginning with C as well?
That's what I was thinking. Exactly. Maybe Celeborn should have kept his old name. It would have made things a lot easier.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Welcome on stage, Teleporno.
I love that name. That's a great name. No wonder Galadriel married him.
I'm sure he insists on pronouncing it Teleporno.
Yes.
Oh, probably.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Orno. Teleporno.
Teleporno. Yes, Orno. Yeah. Teleporno.
All right. Do we have any others? To talk about?
Yeah, so last week I was talking about my abiding love for the Hobbit song, and I hadn't actually at that time had a lot of opportunity to go digging deeply into the lyrics, and I'm certainly going to do that at some point. The line, "The trees of stone," is almost certainly talking about mountains.
Yeah, I know. We kind of just glossed that over, didn't we?
Right, yeah. Such as that was referred to by Manwë as only the trees of Aule.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that makes absolute sense. Just we didn't have the time to go into a deep dive on the lyrics, but that certainly makes sense to me.
No. And we will eventually. I think, you know, the three of us have talked about the fact that we've had to rush these episodes in some respects because we want to get them out for you listeners. Dear listeners, we want to get these out into your ears within 24 hours. And to do that, they have to be short enough to record and edit in that time frame. But I think maybe when the season's over and we can take our time, maybe we'll do a retrospective perhaps on each of the major storylines where we don't find ourselves encumbered by time, and we can then look at the entire season as an entity as well. So we'll probably dive back into that at that point.
Yeah, we'll have plenty of time to do that. We've got at least a year to wait for season 2.
That's right.
So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just a quick note also about the elves carrying the table.
Oh, I knew somebody was going to point this out.
There were ropes strung across their backs, a few people pointed out. So that makes it less troublesome. I mean, it's still 400, 500 pounds per elf.
Yeah.
They're no longer carrying it with one hand, though. I mean, you're right. They're distributing that 400 to 500 pounds across their back. So it's almost like a squat, except they're not. I mean, you know, if you put 400 pounds on a barbell, you're going to have a hard time standing up and walking.
I was going to say, that still makes them champion weightlifters.
It really does.
Yes.
Especially if they're carrying it all the way to
I was going to say, I might be able to squat 400 pounds once, but I'm not going to be able to walk miles and miles to get that anywhere. So I still struggle with that, but okay, fine. I'm not going to die on that hill. But I think maybe we should talk a little bit about one more thing. You know, we this isn't so much a correction. This is an addendum. This is like, hey, we had some problems with this whole bathing in the light of the Valar thing in the first place. Let me tell you about one more reason why we have trouble with that. Let me take you back to the death of the trees. This is in the Silmarillion. We read that, yet even as hope failed and Nienna's song faltered, Telperion bore at last upon a leafless bough one great flower of silver, and Laurelin a single fruit of gold. These Yavanna took, and then the trees died, and their lifeless stems stand yet in Valinor, a memorial of vanished joy. But the flower and the fruit Yavanna gave to Aule, and Manwë hallowed them, and Aule and his people made vessels to hold them and preserve their radiance, as is said in the Narsillion, the song of the sun and moon. So for those of you not following along at home, the sun and moon are quite literally the light of the Valar. So how and why is getting more light from Mithranium going to help the elves stave off their sudden failing?
When they could just step outside for
a little
few
sunbathing.
Minutes.
Yeah,
yes, exactly.
Exactly. Slap on a little bit of Factor 30, go out and lie out on the beach and soak up that light of the Valar.
Yeah, bathe in the light of the Valar.
Yes, exactly.
By the way, I did think the timeline thing was pretty funny, and I was kind of playing around with that a little bit. The idea that elves might fade in the coming months if they don't get the light of the Valar is rather like me saying, if I don't get lunch by 1 o'clock, I'm going to die. I mean, they live so long that from one season to another is a blink of the eye. Can you imagine somebody, well, I can, it'd be my 10-year-old son. If I don't get lunch by 1 o'clock, I'm going to die.
Oh, he might feel like he's going to die.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway.
So if it does turn out to be a lie, as many of us suspect,
I think that's where headed.
It's still odd that it would be accepted as a lie. That's, I think, what our problem is, right?
And that's why I think it's not just a matter of, okay, well, if Sauron's convincing Gil-galad, then I can buy that. No, I think, as we said before, the only way they're going to save this in my book is if Gil-galad is actually in a cave somewhere and that's Sauron dressed as Gil-galad. Then, okay, fine, you fixed it. So.
I get the feeling that Sauron would enjoy that swishy gold lame.
I'm sure he would. He might also enjoy tying Gil-galad up. I don't know. I don't want to go there.
Okay, that's a whole different storyline.
So is there anything else? Any other addendums or things?
I don't think so.
No, I'm all good.
All right, then. Well, let's go ahead and dive right into the storyline. I know, folks, the thing we're going to spend the most time on today is clearly the nature of orcs, as we get to in the interrogation scene with Galadriel and Adar. But, of course, we want to spend some time on the other bits, and we're going to start with that first battle, the Adar and the first battle in the Southlands. It's really the thing that opens the show up, right?
I love the way that we start up just looking at his hands, the way the one that has that metal glove is scratching into the earth. And at first I thought he was literally grasping hold of the earth and saying, this is the soil that we are taking kind of idea.
Sort of a blood and soil
But
thing,
actually to see that he's planting seeds. Mm-hmm. That was really interesting. And then, of course, he says that line, new life in defiance of death, which we're going to hear repeated later on. And it's clearly some kind of elven tradition. Now, if you think about Adar, and again, we'll talk about this as we come to his story and how Galadriel kind of gets to the heart of where he came from. Mm-hmm. He's clearly been around a very, very long time.
Oh, yeah.
So the fact that this tradition has been around such a long time and has clearly been passed on down, I find that really interesting as well.
I agree. That is interesting. He did talk about a journey, and I wanted to touch just on the geography of that real quickly. He talked about their journey from Ered Mithrin to a place that we've not heard of before called Ethel Arnon, and I want to elaborate on that a little bit. The first part's easy. The Ered Mithrin, those are the Gray Mountains. If you look at the map, that is the east-west range north of Mirkwood that connects with the Misty Mountains, sort of at the western end of that range, and that's Mount Gundabad up there. So that may be what they're referencing. Ethel Arnon is the interesting one. It isn't a place, at least not officially. But Ethel means encircling ring or fence, like the Ethel Duath. Okay. The Arnon bit is interesting because that is named someplace. There's a place called the Emin Arnon. It's the hills of Arnon. Those are in Ithilien. And it's where the Anduin, after it passes Osgiliath, turns to the west, to the southeast of Minas Tirith, if you're thinking about the Third Age map. Now, Arnon came either from a pre-Númenorian word for rock, or it was an erroneous mix of Quenya, ar, which means beside, and Sindarin, nen, which means water. So you wouldn't combine Arnen because that's you would use the Quenya version of water. It's either a mix of two languages.
Although that mix does happen. Names like Boromir and Faramir are examples of combinations of Quenya and Sindarin.
Quenya and Sindarin.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
I was going just off of Tolkien's unfinished index about Emin Arnon. I did not know that, but I can hear that now.
Yeah, it does happen.
Interesting. So I'm wondering if just Ethel Arnon means an encircling ring or fence that's beside water. That's Ethel Arnon. But anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out there. A little word nerdery and a little geography.
The other thing I want to talk about is the way in which Adar addresses the orcs. We get a lot of emphasis in this episode on him viewing them as his children. Now, we knew that before. They call him Adar, which means father, as we know. But it's really emphasized in this episode. And we hear it a lot about how he views them as his children. And clearly, the connection between them and Adar is that kind of relationship. They look to him for guidance and for care in the way that you might look to a parent. So I just find the way in which they really emphasize that quite important in this episode because of the different times in which it's mentioned, the importance that's placed on it. And one particular moment that I'm going to come to later when he's talking to Halbrand, where child is mentioned. And I actually think that is quite significant, but we'll get to that.
I do as well.
But the second thing is when he talks to the orcs and says that they are as brothers and sisters in our home. Now, what did you two think of that one?
James, I'm going to let you answer that one first.
Yeah, I mean, we'd had hints of this, I think, in some of the magazine articles and so on had suggested female orcs, but it was interesting for them to be confirmed. I mean, why not?
Well, they have to be, right? I mean, Tolkien explained that they reproduce in the manner of the children of Iluvatar. So,
exactly.
You know, a little bow chicka wow wow. You can't, you know, you got to have the female orc somewhere around there, right? Sorry.
Bum chicka orqua?
Bring in some of my PPP humor there, you know, from the other show. We have some terrible
It's led
laughs.
many people to think there are no female orcs.
That's right.
Which is nonsense.
It's the beards. Now, I didn't see any in the battle, in fairness, or at least none that were obviously female. I didn't even see any in the crowd, but we don't know.
But we don't know if they look any different.
What would make them look different? You're right. Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because it made you think, okay, they're not just cannon fodder. And we'll get to that more with the interrogation, I think, between Galadriel and Adar.
Even in some of the battles we see later on, I was struck by how individualized the orcs are. We're so used to seeing, you know, individual people on the good side hurt, and then, you know, they'll knock out 10 orcs in one go or something. That wasn't happening in any of these battles. You were seeing individual orcs get struck. You were seeing individual villagers get struck.
Mm-hmm.
It was refreshing, and it seemed a lot more realism to it as well, that they were equally one for one sort of falling.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it tied back, I think, to that sort of individualization of the orcs. They're not just a collective group that you can, you know, wipe out 10 or 20 at a time.
Yeah, they're not just cannon fodder. They're not just, I don't know, a horde, a din horde, a glamhoth. Oh, wait, they are the glamhoth. That's right. Yeah. No, it's interesting. It's an interesting point. I like it. I also thought, though, Waldrig probably doesn't feel too much like a brother right now. That
Probably not. No. But he's kind of making himself at home, as we'll see.
He's going to be pretty indispensable later. He's going to be the key to the whole thing.
Right.
Oh, terrible.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah.
But
sorry.
the last thing to note with the idea of brothers and sisters, we have brothers and we have sisters and we have father. What we have here is a family.
Ooh, that's a good way of putting it.
We have an actual family here. And that is a very different view of orcs to anything we've been offered before.
Yeah.
I mean, we actually have relationship there rather than just a bunch of orcs that happen to be fighting on the same side.
Right. It's not just the Glamhoth anymore. The Glamhoth has been individualized.
Yeah. Exactly.
And, you know, we obviously have to skim past a lot of the events of the battle and things like that. But I did want to throw out one little interesting bit of word nerdery here. When they go in and the place is empty and they're searching for them, you hear one of the orcs say a few things. And one of the words he says is Gimbatul.
Yeah.
You might recognize that because it's right out of the ring inscription. It simply means find them. So it's in the part of the ring inscription about one ring to find them all, and in the darkness find them. Gimbatul. So that was a nice little bit of word nerdery where they didn't actually have to come up with neo-black speech. They were able to actually reference real black speech.
Yep.
Instead of nampat, which I'm still trying to figure out what that means.
I can tell you.
Of course you can, James. Don't just tease me. What is that about? Oh, I can tell you.
It was actually revealed in the Amazon X-ray information block.
I need to use that.
So the gloss that they gave there was simply death. It's described as an orc war chant.
Okay.
They're shouting death, death, death. Shades of the Rohirrim, actually.
Yeah,
although I think in a different sense. I get the impression when the Rohirrim are shouting death, it's about their own death or their own willingness to die. Yeah. I don't think that's what the orcs are going for.
No, I think the orcs are very much going for everybody else's death. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, some people have pointed out maybe more correctly it should be to die. But given we don't know how to form imperatives in black speech, I don't think it really matters. It's certainly the concept of basically wishing death upon people is the idea of numpat,
death.
Yeah. It's always good to have a good old chant going as you're marching into battle as well.
Right, especially when it's the death of your enemy. You were talking about forming imperatives, and all I can think of now is the scene in Monty Python's Life of Brian where they're trying to come up with the proper Latin grammar. We'll just have to leave that there.
Because what have the elves ever done for us?
Exactly. Well played. We'll skip right past the terrible engineering where that tower was within like a hair's breadth of falling down. We'll move to the ad break and we'll talk about more storylines in just a moment.
We're about to jump back into talking about today's episode, but we want to remind you that when you finish listening, the talk continues all night long at the Rings of Power wrap-up.
We have an amazing community of listeners, and they really do keep the conversation going. From the Rings of Power group on Facebook, our Twitter feed, our Reddit community, and more.
Now on Facebook, just look for Rings Wrap-Up. Be sure to follow the page so that you get our news and our posts and our releases, but also join the group for some really great discussions about the show and on each of our episodes.
If you're on Reddit, look us up at r/Rings Wrap-Up and follow us on Twitter and Instagram, where we're at Rings Wrap-Up.
A quick favour to ask, if you like the show, please help us by giving us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and recommend us to your friends.
Indeed, thank you. We're going to go ahead and get back into the storyline, and we're going to jump to one that is only on screen for a brief moment, and that's the Númenorians at sea. Not a lot to talk about here, but just a few little nuggets that we want to touch on, right?
Mm-hmm. Can I just say, sharing an apple with your horse is gross. I mean, take a bite out of it, sure. Hand the rest of the apple to the horse.
Exactly.
Fine. Don't let the horse take a bite and then take another bite yourself, because gross.
That is a little gross.
Plus, where were these horses?
Where were the blooming apples?
When we saw the men below deck, I could kind of buy that. I did a quick look up. The HMS Endeavour, Captain Cook's ship, had 94 people on board, and it looked roughly the same size. So I can buy about 100 people.
But wouldn't that include the ship's crew and not just the soldiers?
Yeah, in fact, a majority. So in the case of the Endeavour, the 94 people were, I believe, roughly 70 crew. The majority were crew, and the actual Marines were sort of on the order of 12, and then there were some civilians. But it's not so much the people; it's where are the horses?
Where do you put the horses?
Oh, come on! We discussed this last week. They're in a submarine underneath the ship.
We can move on.
We all live in Equine submarine.
Oh my goodness! A Númenorian submarine.
An Equine submarine. I mean, yeah, they must have each of them has a bag of holding where they can put their horse. Yes. It's like in another pocket dimension. And they just, there's Barrack. Let me just pull him out of my bag.
Yeah, it's not like they're really crammed in either. The horses seem to have more room than the people.
Yes.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, there was a suggestion on Twitter that maybe these are powdered horses, that you take them out and then you add water and lo and behold, horse. Maybe
the ship is like a TARDIS. It's just bigger on the inside.
Maybe.
Mm-hmm. I think it's going to have to be, be honest.
We're going to have to accept that this is a Doctor Who crossover now and that it is, in fact, a TARDIS.
Apart from anything else, when we see them on land, I swear there's more than 300 people.
Many more than 300. That's a large group. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And still, even if it wasn't 300, it's way, way bigger than those 3 boats could have carried. But let's go back to this chat with Galadriel, who I'll just note, by the way, we do get the sort of nod to the whole, what do your elf eyes see, Legolas? Like, she's been able to see the land for an hour now. I actually will buy that this time. Why? Because the Earth is still flat.
Given the Earth is flat, it makes sense that better eyesight means you can see further. Wouldn't work in a rounded Earth, but...
No, the horizon is the horizon.
The horizon is the horizon, exactly, yeah.
I did like, though, the little nugget of wisdom that she gave about humility and pride. At first, I have to admit, it came off slightly condescending, but then again, I think that's Galadriel's tone.
And I also think, hang on a minute, Galadriel, babe, you're a little on the proud side yourself.
Yeah, just a touch.
So it's all very well preaching humility to others.
I think Galadriel could do with some stable sweeping in her life. Probably do her some good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, give her a broom, let her take care of the mess. Yeah, not a bad idea. It's very much a pot, kettle, pot moment, isn't it? Yeah.
It is a little bit, yes. Yeah. The next bit is where she's actually talking to Elendil. And she asks about his wife, and we've all been curious about the wife. What happened to the wife? The wife got fridged long before the start of this story, but, what happened there? Elendil doesn't answer her at first. He talks about how, and I actually thought this was a really beautiful thing that he was saying, that he used to look to the east to see the sun rising and then to the west to see the sun setting. And he's sailing into the east, but he feels like he's sailing into the sunset.
Yeah, it's the coming of night. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is poignant. Especially as we know I say we know in canon what happens to Elendil later on.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was a really effective moment where he almost has a sort of prescience about his future.
Yeah, it's definitely some foreboding there for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But we do get the information about his wife.
Yeah, she drowned.
It's not a lot. It's a very short story. She drowned.
Yeah.
She drowned.
We're told nothing more.
We were told a little bit more when I interviewed Emma Horvath the other day. She actually, so I knew the mother had drowned because Emma told us. But the other thing she added, which has not yet been revealed in the show, so block your ears if you want to avoid the spoiler, is that she drowned trying to save Isildur.
Okay, that would certainly explain Isildur and always hearing his mother's voice, which at least that's the way I'm reading those scenes where he hears a woman's voice off the shore.
Yeah. No, same.
Oh, yes.
Same.
Yeah. You
can unblock your ears now.
Yep. We need to have like maybe a spoiler music, spoiler stinger. All right.
Yeah. Well, that brings an extra poignancy to later on in the show where Isildur and Elendil are together in the battle.
Well, the horse whispering.
Yes.
Yeah, when they embrace and it's clear there's some reconciliation there. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed.
Well, let's go ahead and move on. I mean, I guess real briefly, we'll just mention that there's that scene with Miriel where they're looking at the map. And I have to say that was a pretty cool map where you can tell they're going to be sailing up the Anduin past where Minas Tirith is going to eventually be heading towards Mordor. Mm-hmm. And I just thought that was a fantastic little moment. But let's cut back to the Southlands with Arondir and Bronwyn as they prepare for that second battle, right? Mm-hmm. Clearly, we're not going to be able to destroy the sword now. That's beyond our ability or beyond our skill to destroy Arondir's swords, right?
That's quite important because that then connects it to the idea of there are certain artifacts because of the way that they have been created. You can't just destroy them.
Yeah, you have to unmake them somehow.
Yes, exactly. So the ring is the obvious one of those, that it has to be unmade. It can't simply be destroyed. And now we have this hilt. And of course, with Arondir hitting at it and then breaking his weapon, that really calls back to Gimli, of course, in the Jackson films, striking at the ring and just breaking his axe. So it was a very similar kind of...
Very on-the-nose callback to Jackson there, I thought. Yeah. Which we see a lot of. I mean, I think I mentioned this last time, and if I didn't, I want to reiterate this. It may have been in another conversation that I had about the show. One of my slight gripes regarding the writing is that they often make callbacks not to Tolkien's language, though they do later in this episode, very shortly, actually, which we'll get to. They often call back to Jackson dialogue. Mm-hmm. Whereas in the Jackson films, it was really neat that they would reference dialogue or even narrative text straight out of the books and give those lines to characters, even if they were different characters. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think we get one of our first real Tolkien quotes in this episode and in this scene, don't we?
Yes, the quote about the shadow. And I thought that was really poignant. The fact that Theo, in the moments before the battle, in that time before the battle, when he's parting from his mother, and he asks her to tell him again the story that she would tell him when he was very young and had bad dreams. And it was just so poignant.
There was a tenderness
moment.
There.
It was a tender moment, wasn't it, between mother and son? And in such a time when one or both of them could possibly not survive what was coming.
Yeah.
And yes, the quote, "In the end, the shadow is but a small and passing thing. There is light and high beauty forever beyond its reach." And then she adds, "Find the light and the shadow will not find you." Now, okay.
It was an interesting addendum.
Yeah. Okay, it does feel a little bit like that quote is shoved in there, because would you really say that to your very young toddler who's having bad dreams? Would that really work? But on the other hand, it's a nice bit of Tolkien language, and it is. It's a good moment to give that kind of quote, because the shadow that is coming is definitely a bit of a nightmare.
Very much so.
It is in itself a small and passing thing, because it's true. Just a moment in the long defeat, if you like.
Good way of putting it. I actually do want to quote the actual quote, which is in Book 6 in The Lord of the Rings. It is from later on when Sam and Frodo are in Mordor making their way to Mount Doom, and this is what we read. "There, peeping among the cloud rack above a dark tor high up in the mountains, Sam saw a white star twinkle for a while. The beauty of it smote his heart as he looked up out of the forsaken land, and hope returned to him. For like a shaft, clear and cold, the thought pierced him that in the end, the shadow was only a small and passing thing. there was light and high beauty forever beyond its reach. So
that is so beautiful, that moment.
It is, isn't it?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And interesting that it's said in Mordor.
Yeah.
And this is also said in Mordor.
Yeah, yeah. Or before Door, as the case may be.
Before Door.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it might very well have been very near to where Sam would have said this line. If you look at the map,
yes,
it appears this is just sort of on the other side of the pass of what we now know as the Pass of Cirith Ungol.
Yes.
So, very interesting. But then we get to see the thing that we saw earlier with Adar, but we see it with Arondir, this tradition among the elves to plant these seeds before battle. Now I want to go back to the very first episode, or maybe it was the second. The first two get mingled together because they released at the same time. When we learned that Alpharin is the seed that we're talking about. Well, we talked about this on the show here. Alpharin is Cymbalmina. So this is the same plant that grows on the tombs of the Rohirric kings that we see as Gandalf and the three hunters are approaching Medusel. They're approaching Edoras. It is an interesting and symbolic choice, I think, to use this particular plant as new life in defiance of death. I thought that was a very interesting touch by the writers here to use that plant in this particular context.
Yeah. Don't you find it interesting that it is not Arondir who uses the line, new life in defiance of death, but Bronwyn?
Yeah.
And it's the same line as Adar uses. I kind of would have expected it to be Arondir saying that, but instead it's Bronwyn.
That's a very good point.
I find that, I was quite surprised by that, actually. I found that unusual.
You're right. And she sort of asks it as a question, like, new life in defiance of death. You know, like, oh, that's what this is. Okay. Interesting. I wonder if she might have heard that before, you know, in her role as a healer and dealing with these seeds and perhaps talking with other healers in other communities, or maybe even the elves before when there were more of them around rather than just this one guy who's left. Yeah. Interesting. Well, of course, we get the thing, and I wish we could spend more time on this, and at some point we will. Obviously, the love story between Arondir and Bronwyn is a big thing. But if we stop there, folks, we're going to be there for a long time. What do you think? Maybe give me a 30-second spin on that. What do you think, James? I'll have you go first on this one.
Well, yeah, we got the kiss.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, whatever. I mean, I probably would have preferred it if it hadn't even gone that far.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it was fine.
I liked the tension that they'd had before the kiss. I really relished that because you got the sense that Arondir knew he couldn't do this, that it wasn't going to work, that it would be a disaster to pursue this, but you could see him holding those emotions in check.
Yeah.
Sara, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I can see why James is saying that, because obviously it's problematic, isn't it, having a relationship between Arondir and Bronwyn, and in my mind it's doomed anyway. I can see this happening because of this moment, because it's immediately before a battle where, you know, Arondir knows it's going to be incredibly dangerous and one or both of them could end up dying. And I suppose it's looking towards the future and the hope for the future. I thought it was important that he mentioned Theo, that it wasn't just about him and Bronwyn.
I agree. I did like that. Yeah.
Yes. And we'll plant the rest in the new garden, you and me and Theo.
Together.
And be a family. That I thought was really important. And at least it was a really simple, gentle kiss. It wasn't, you know, literally eating each other's mouths off. So that would have been a little bit much, I think.
They cut away instantly. So
they
it was
did.
very,
they cut away to a wide shot, and then they even only let that one stay for about 2 or 3 seconds.
It's like the old style films where you cut away to a roaring fire. You know?
Yes, exactly. Now we just need to reshoot that scene, but with, like, you know, Vaseline on the camera lens, like they did the old Star Trek stuff whenever Kirk would look at one of his alien green-skinned women, and she'd be all soft and blurry.
And then Arondir and Bronwyn, ...
All right, well, we're going to go ahead and move on because otherwise we're going to be here all day. I will touch real briefly on the Arondir boss fight. I thought it was incredibly gruesome all the way through, right up until Bronwyn's surprise, saving. Do you have any thoughts on this? I'm maybe a touch disappointed because it's now no longer a show I can watch with my 10-year-old.
Yeah, it's more gruesome than I was expecting.
I know.
Yeah, there was a lot of blood flying. I mean, before we've seen wounds and there hasn't been a lot of blood coming out. But here, I mean, this moment when Arondir is being bent backwards over the well wall, that gigantic orc has got this knife thing, whatever it was, stuck through his eye, and it's dripping blood down onto Arondir's face. And then he hauls it out of his eye, and it's coming towards Arondir's eyeball. I mean, I was wincing and looking away, never mind some 10-year-old kid. That was gross.
I do think that was a little bit of a darker move than I thought they'd make, but I guess we'll get more to that, because of course we see more blood after Bronwyn. Poor Bronwyn gets the arrow all the way through her.
Gets the double arrow. She gets multiple arrows.
She does.
Yes,
she does.
She gets thoroughly
Boromired. Yes.
She almost got Celebrimbored, but thankfully
no, we're saving that just for Banner Boy. But I mean, my tension always is that, okay, if they stick to canon, we're pretty certain Galadriel isn't going to die in this battle, right? We're pretty certain Elendil and Isildur are not going to die in this battle.
Yeah.
But the original characters are up for grabs every single episode.
Yeah. I thought, wow, they're going to kill Bronwyn. I'm stunned. They're going to kill her.
I almost thought they were going to.
I thought that would be the moment.
We only got Treadwell, but
poor
still.
Guy. I know. Yeah, and I thought maybe if they kill Bronwyn, well, that'll be the motive for Theo to go to the dark side and become Kamul or the Witch King or whoever. One of the
still could happen later on.
Still could happen, no doubt. I'm not saying it won't happen, but I do have to say it was a little bit of a surprise that there was nobody else that Arondir could recruit to help stop the bleeding. Instead, he has to get Theo to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Please cause your mother intense pain in order to save her life. No pressure.
Yeah. What is he? A 13, 14-year-old boy?
Yeah. So, 13, 14.
Yeah, pretty rough, wasn't it?
Burning wood, so they cauterize the wound using alpharin seeds.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, she passes out. I mean, the pain level must have been unbelievable. Of course, we all thought she was dead, right? She's dead.
She was only mostly dead.
She's only mostly dead.
Which means she's a little bit alive.
She's a little bit alive.
That's right. And now they're going to have fun storming the castle. So
it would take a miracle.
It would take. That's right. It would take. If only I had a Holocaust cloak.
If only we had a wheelbarrow, that would be something.
Do I have to point to my watch?
Sara keeping us on track. Thank you. Do we have to point to my watch? Yes, I suppose. Otherwise, we're going to end up doing the entire Princess Bride film in this one sequence.
Yeah, as you wish.
I don't. I just leave it right there.
I think Sara is the Brute Squad.
Oh.
Everybody move.
Okay.
So,
which one of you is the rodent of unusual size then?
I don't think they exist.
Okie dokie.
Wow, this is great stuff, folks. So
moving on.
The charging cavalry of Númenor that seems to have multiplied since they got off the boats, and multiplied even more since they got on the boats. So, of course, now there's the big fight in the tavern, and it stops only when Bronwyn and Theo are threatened, and Adar comes in. Oh, okay. A little bit of a tense moment here, right?
Right. Yes, indeed. Because, I mean, there's absolutely no way the villagers are getting out of this one.
Oh, no.
The orcs have the building surrounded. They're now inside the building. Adar is right there. I mean, it's no surprise that Arondir tries to fight, but it's just no way can they get out of this. So it's really tense. What's going to happen now? But that casual brutality with which they just slice and dice the villagers to make a point. That first one, he just gently slid the sword through that man's stomach.
You could just see the look on his face, like, what? Why? Why is this happening? Yeah.
That set the tension up so much, because from that point onwards, who knows what they were going to do next? If they're willing to just do that without prompting.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Adar, for all his desire to give the orcs a place to live, he's not coming to the table negotiating a peace, is he?
No.
I mean, we'll get to that more in that interrogation scene, but I just want to make sure we don't see Adar as like being the human rights champion for orcs.
No.
Yeah. He does not have the moral high ground here. Let's be really clear.
It's want, take, have.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So Adar continues his persuasion, as I put that in air quotes, just, slaying more of the innocent villagers until finally it's about to be Theo's mother's turn. It's about to be Bronwyn's turn, and that's when Theo breaks. And again, who can blame him? He's a 13 or 14-year-old boy who has been traumatized and seen all this, and he knows he can save his mother's life. Why wouldn't he?
Well, he certainly thinks he can. As to whether that would have saved his mother's life, because after the hilt was handed over, goodness knows if any of the villagers would have survived anyway. But yeah, you can't blame him. The fact that he followed Arondir and watched where he hid it, that kind of then makes sense at the towards the end of the episode when he tells Arondir.
Yeah, when Arondir and Theo have that little chat, yeah.
Exactly. But no, I don't think you can blame him at all. He's, as you say, he's traumatized. He's just had to burn his mother's flesh to save her life. And now this.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, I do too. And so does Arondir. We'll get to that later, but I find that scene particularly realistic. I mean, I can't imagine saying anything else to him and being hard on him at all. I thought Arondir handled that with dignity.
Yeah.
And I thought it was interesting. We'll get to it again with Theo's response. But what happens, of course, right after the earth rumbles, we immediately start thinking, aha, the hilt is the key to Mount Doom. Oh, no, it's just the Númenorian cavalry. And we start getting the battle now between... So now the storylines all merge, right? So now it's no longer the Southlanders line or Adar's line or even the Númenorian line. We're all in the same battle.
And we get that wonderful cavalry charge, the chain.
Yeah, what a cool trick that was.
Between the two horses. That was fun to watch. That was fun to watch.
That was a takedown. I thought that was brilliant. But that's not the only time they used a chain to good effect in the whole episode. It was a chain that brought Arondir down off the roof. There was there's a couple of times when they used a chain, and I thought that was...
They used that in the earlier episode.
That's right.
With Arondir as well. So that use of that chain work is really,
Yes. Multiple use weapon.
Well, much fighting ensues.
Can we just talk about Galadriel and her skill at riding? Galadriel can dodge arrows and
dodging the arrow in flight, flipping upside down, and whilst upside down and riding a horse, beheading an orc.
Yeah, because why not multitask like a boss?
All without the benefit of mithril.
Oh, I know. Can you imagine if she just took her daily mithril supplement? She could do so even much more incredible.
Yeah. She wouldn't have needed the Rohirrim.
There you go. I think if she takes her mithranium supplement, she'll actually be able to skateboard downstairs in the back of a shield.
That's why she didn't do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yes, because that would have been just too much. Just too much.
Just.
There's no Oliphant around to slide down the trunk, so she can't do that.
And then look smug.
So I did think it was neat to see our red shirts, Elendil and Ontimo, fighting in there, and Elendil saved Ontimo. I knew, of course, that Elendil wouldn't die at that moment. He's got to die saving Isildur, and we know that's already been set up now for the next time.
Yeah.
Why do you think Miriel sends Isildur down? First of all, that she's the one who did it, and she sends him down by himself. Any thoughts on that particular moment?
I thought that was a bit daft, actually.
Yeah.
I mean,
it makes no sense. You go by yourself into this battle.
He's a stable sweeper. Why has he got his horse next to the queen?
Seriously.
Yeah. Right? He's got no business being there in the queen's personal guard, which is what they would have been. The queen's personal guard at a vantage point at the top of the hill, watching what's going on. Why is Isildur there again?
Makes no sense.
Surely a humble stable sweep would have been one of the cannon fodder, charging in, cannons to the left of them, cannons to the right of them, etc.
And no doubt about it.
So that I thought that was a bit daft. It gave Isildur his galloping down the hill to save Dad moment.
Except he didn't save Dad.
He didn't save Dad.
It was Halbrand who saved him. But
they set it up to think he's going to.
Yeah,
and then it's revealed that it's Halbrand,
Yes, exactly.
And then he does what I think a cavalryman is supposed to never do. Did you notice that he just kind of stopped right in the middle there to start hacking at a few orcs instead of maintaining his momentum?
Yeah. You never stop.
No, that's the whole point.
You don't stop, because when you do that, the orcs are going to bring down the horse and then they're going to bring you down, which is kind of what happened to Elendil.
Exactly.
Yes.
You'd think that as the guy that Elendil is, he would know better. But, he's of the Sea Guard. So he's probably still learning how to be a cavalryman, in fairness. But Halbrand saves him, and then we cut back to Arondir, and that's when Galadriel spots him and says, hey, where is their commander? And of course, Adar is off stealing a Númenorian horse, and that's when we learn that, he has got that thing. But does he have that thing? Was there a moment right before that where something else happened?
This was a blink and you'll miss it moment, and I nearly blinked and nearly missed it, and suddenly had to think my way back to it when later events happen.
Yeah.
And that, of course, is the moment when Adar says to our favorite bad guy, Waldreg.
Oh, Waldreg.
I have a task for you, Waldreg. And then the cavalry charge happens. So, of course, my thought was, okay, he's got tasks for him, but it's too late because here are the Númenorians.
I thought the same thing. Yeah.
But no, sneaky Waldreg has snuck out the back.
And sneaky Adar carrying around what turns out to be just an axe wrapped in canvas.
But the whole time us thinking it's the hilt, yes.
Yeah, exactly, because it's set up to do that. But, the fact that he had a hammer all wrapped up ready, okay, that's some forward planning right there.
Yeah, Adar may be a lot of things, but he's not an idiot.
Yeah, so that was a moment I had to think back to, because when we realize, and we don't realize until almost at the end, that what Theo unwraps is an axe and not the hilt, then it's a confused moment as to how has this switch happened. And that's when I had to suddenly remember that Adar had told Waldreg that he had a task for him. But we'll get to that switcheroo moment.
We will. Now, because of the way I've kind of broken down the storylines, right, I really wanted to isolate the line of Galadriel, Halbrand, and Adar, because I think that's where so much of the discussion is. But if we stick with the Númenorian thing, we cut back to them eventually, and we've got that village party with Arondir and Bronwyn and Queen Regent Miriel. This is a really interesting moment. This is the one when Miriel introduces Halbrand to Bronwyn. So we now shot down one of my original theories, which maybe that Halbrand was... Yeah, exactly. Maybe Theo's dad and, had run away from his responsibilities. If so, she played it off really well.
The Oscar would go to.
I think that's gone. Yeah.
Maybe she was really, really drunk and she just can't remember what he looked like. I don't know. I mean, Adar didn't remember him either. He's just one of these guys. You just forget what he looks like.
We'll come to that.
Well, she doesn't recognize him, but she certainly recognizes the sigil he carries.
She sure does. And she literally asks. Yeah.
And immediately assumes he's and they keep saying the term true king of the Southland.
Are you the true king we were promised? Yeah, and there's a beat before he answers.
There is a long beat, right? I mean, he looks over at Galadriel sort of, I don't know, to draw strength maybe, because, he's been so hesitant all along.
Yeah.
And then he says yes.
He's not.
But boy, that's the thing. I'm hearing you, James. I hear you. Say that a little louder, my friend.
I'm on James's side. Go on, James.
The whole time he's been, I think he's one of these characters where the first thing that comes out of his mouth is the truth. And then he plays it off as, I was just joking. And then tells the lie. So when he says, I got it off a dead guy.
Yeah, I think now.
Haha, just kidding. I think he did get it off a dead guy.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing we're going to find out that he did, the terrible thing that he did. When he talks in the last episode, I did these terrible things to survive. I think the terrible thing he did to survive was kill the true king and take his sigil.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think he's the true king. I really don't. And I have other things to add to that as well when we get to them.
Okay,
but
we will get to them. But Miriel is fooled, right? She starts the toast to the true king of the Southlands.
The true king. It strikes me that they keep using the term true king. Yes.
Yeah. That's a distinction that I'm not quite sure I get. But then we get this interesting moment where Galadriel hands the hilt/axe back to Arondir, because it's certainly not the hilt, is it? She thinks it is.
We think it is.
And then he has that little chat with Theo, the one we talked about earlier, right? Don't be too hard on yourself. But I love what we get from Theo. It isn't just the guilt that he's feeling for turning in the hilt in order to save his mom. It's the loss of the power that he felt when he possessed that.
Yeah. And I immediately thought of those lines we get about the Númenorians after the victory under Tar Minister. They say that they got a taste for power.
Oh, yes.
And that's the beginning of the shadow falling on Númenor. The very beginning.
Is. The very beginning. You're right.
They have military victory, but it's that they have this taste for power. And you can see Theo getting a taste for power.
You really can.
There's no question in my mind that I don't know, which Nazgul it will be or exactly how it'll play out. But they're
he's
totally
the runt of the Nazgul. He's the littlest Nazgul.
They're totally setting up how a man is going to accept one of the 9 rings, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the things they clearly need to do if they are going to show what happens to all of the rings, the 16 anyway. They're setting up what's the motivation for somebody to take it. And we've got Theo's now.
We certainly do. You know, I have to say, because he is just a 13 or 14-year-old boy, my thought is that maybe we can write a children's book called The Littlest Nazgul. And we could have it illustrated in the style.
I love it. I love it.
Oh, man, poor Theo. Yeah, the lead character is definitely named Theo.
Well, I do hope when he's a Nazgul, he has a better haircut. That's all I can say.
I know. That really does need some help.
And maybe pointy ears, seeing as everyone's so convinced that
I don't know why people keep saying that. I mean, clearly that's not the case. And I think we even saw his ears in an early episode, but it is hilarious.
I'm sure we have seen his ears.
No, it is pretty funny.
Well, you know, Bronwyn's got a scarf over the top of her ears. I'm just saying.
That's right.
Just saying.
That's right. We've never seen the top of her ears.
No.
They're both Sauron.
We're all Sauron. I think that's the thing. We're all Sauron until we're proven not to be. It's sort of like Schrodinger's Sauron, you know? So here's the thing. I get why Arondir says to Theo, don't feel bad, don't be too hard on yourself, etc. But I don't get why he then hands it to Theo and says, give it to Númenor and toss it into the sea. Why doesn't he do that himself? Why does he trust that to Theo? I mean, it turns out to be irrelevant. Okay,
well,
good.
At that moment, that's the moment where I started to think Arondir has given him a fake parcel.
Yeah.
Right? Because that would make sense. Until we saw Waldreg.
Yeah, I see.
I assumed that Arondir was testing
to see if he would open it up.
Would he open it up? Would he want to look at it? Would he try it again? And that's what I thought Arondir was doing.
That's interesting. I like that. I like that a lot, actually. I can see
it turns out not to be true.
No, not true at all. Not true at all. They've all been suckered. They've all been had.
It shows it doesn't really make sense that you would hand off such a dangerous thing to a kid who is clearly really affected by it.
Who has just admitted that he's sort of addicted to the feeling he gets when he possesses it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, not the move that I would make.
No, it's a bit like saying to a heroin addict, okay, fine, I get you're having real trouble with it. So here's your bag of heroin.
Right.
Why don't you go and flush that down the toilet yourself?
Exactly. Yeah. I'm not even going to be here to watch you do it. I'm just going to trust that you're going to do it.
I'm just going to walk away and trust that you'll do that.
Not the wisest thing.
Yeah.
Fortunately, he'd already been had. Unfortunately, he'd already been had.
Yeah.
So we do cut to, you know what? Let's go ahead and knock this out, right? We've got a little bit of time before we decide to dive into the cool storyline of Galadriel, Halbrand, and Adar. So let's talk about what happens next, right? Waldreg uses the sword. He goes to the stone of the watchtower, turns it like a key. We get the release of floodwaters.
All through those tunnels that we've previously seen. All the orc settlement where Arondir and the other elves, Revion and so on, were kept. You could see all of that same structure was where the water flows through.
So now we know what the tunnels were for. And a number of episodes ago, that hilt was described as a key.
Yeah,
and
quite literally as a key.
Yes. Yeah. And now we know it's literally a key.
Quite.
We wondered what it was key to, but it's actually literally
the key. Yes.
It's quite a literal key. Now, before we get to all that, which I really want to talk about from a story perspective as well as a science perspective, James, you have something for us on the whole Sindarin versus Quenya, because we hear some Sindarin, don't we?
We do, and this is really, really interesting. So one of the things that I think we've pointed this out before, certainly in conversations I've had with people, we've heard a lot of Quenya in this show.
Yes.
We've heard Quenya in places where perhaps we didn't expect it. We might have expected Sindarin instead.
Yeah.
And so there were sort of various theories that maybe they were trying to correct an overuse of Sindarin in the Peter Jackson movies or something, and they really wanted to bring back more Quenya. Variety of theories there. Because we haven't actually heard, full utterances in Sindarin up until this point. And I don't mean names of people or places. We've heard Sindarin names and places, and we heard Mithrord and so on. Right? We're hearing Sindarin words, but we're not hearing somebody utter a full sentence in Sindarin to someone.
Right. No conversations in Sindarin.
Right. Until we get, there's two cases of it in this episode, and in both cases in the subtitles it says in Sindarin, and I did a quick search, and the term in Quenya appears in the subtitles. In the first 4 episodes you get that in Quenya 12 times and never get in Sindarin. But in 2 cases in this episode we get in Sindarin. The 2 times that we hear Sindarin spoken, it's spoken to a horse. And it struck me as odd that we finally get Sindarin. And both times it's to a horse. Now, the first time, it's, of course, the famous line that in the Peter Jackson movies is said by Arwen. In the book, it's Glorfindel that says it. So it's actually a book line.
That's true. It is.
Not a PG, although people associated with the Peter Jackson film. But there's a later line as well. I think it's Elendil speaks Sindarin to the horse as a horse whisperer to calm it down. And so my first thought was, are horses the only people that speak Sindarin here? We're getting Quenya everywhere else. But one of the things that I think we need to consider is what language are they actually speaking when it's represented in English? So, for example, when Gil-galad and Elrond are speaking to one another, we're hearing it in English, but it obviously isn't English, right?
No.
But it's not going to be Westron either.
No.
So unlike Lord of the Rings, where clearly whenever we get English, it's representing Westron.
Right.
Here, it seems, this is my working hypothesis, that we're getting whatever the natural language of communication between those people would be. So between Gil-galad and Elrond, for example, we would expect perhaps Sindarin. They don't put it in Sindarin, they put it in English.
And the only time they show us the other language is when they revert to Quenya.
It's when it's a non-standard language for those groups of people to use.
Okay.
When Elrond is crafting his speech, he's writing Sindarin in Tengwar on the piece of paper, but then Gil-galad delivers the speech we hear in English, right? So it's feasible that that's in Sindarin. When Númenorians are speaking to one another, they're presumably speaking Adonaic. It's only when they drop to Quenya that it's actually expressed as Quenya. And so I'm wondering if the reason that we don't hear nearly as much Sindarin is that English is generally used in place of Sindarin. The only exception being with a horse, they're sort of emphasizing the unusual nature of the communication, and so putting it in Sindarin in that case.
Interesting. Okay, so I get that. So the idea is that they're always speaking Sindarin, therefore it's represented by English, except when, well, I shouldn't say they're always speaking English. They're always speaking whatever the common language is in those people.
Right.
So it might be the dwarves. We're not going to hear Khuzdul represented as Khuzdul.
Exactly.
Except for perhaps when Elrond speaks it, because we wouldn't expect it to come from him.
Exactly. I think when there's sort of a sociolinguistic exception,
that makes sense,
that they want to emphasize.
That fits a lot with what Leith McPherson said when we had her on several episodes before the season started. And she talked about, when they would switch to the use of Quenya or other languages. And she didn't say that exact point, but it was clear that it was a demarcation of when something was unique or special and to kind of call it out. So that certainly fits.
And just similarly, just one final thing, that when the elves, when the Sylvan elves in the camp, for example, are talking to one another, we can assume they're actually probably speaking Sindarin to one another. So the question of why they're speaking Quenya, not Sindarin, they're speaking Sindarin most of the time. It's just those few times that they do speak Quenya, because it's particularly marked, whether it's to the tree or that crying out Hano when Revian dies.
Yeah,
that's in Quenya. And they represent it in Quenya because it's unusual for them to be speaking in that as opposed to Sindarin. Yeah.
That makes sense. Well, so we have that amazing moment with Elendil as the horse whisperer and the sort of reconciliation there between him and Isildur, which is great. They don't have a lot of time to embrace because now we get the coming flood, and we're going to come back to that whole little storyline. We're going to try to run through this in a reasonable amount of time because I want to spend a chunk of time on the Adar interrogation. We get the orcs that have been captured. They're chanting Udun, which simply means the depth. Now, that's a concept usually related to hell. It was Sindarin for Utumno, which was Morgoth's original stronghold all the way back in the First Age. It's also the name of the valley in the northwest corner of Mordor. If you look at the map, you see where the Morannon is. There's a little valley behind the Morannon, and that's also called Udun, but that's not where we are.
No, although presumably it could be related. That said, it probably wasn't called Udun then in Before-Dor. No. It may have come to be called that as a result of what's about to happen on screen.
That's true. That's a very good point. Yeah. So the floodwaters pour towards Mount Doom, which is interesting because one would think that the surface of the ground would get higher and higher as it reaches the base of the mountain. So the tunnels would have to be deeper and deeper in order for it to actually be downhill. But I won't get to that. I have enough gripes about the science already. But the floodwaters pour towards Mount Doom, and somehow that triggers a volcanic eruption. Boom. Is this how volcanoes work? Either of you? Neither of you are volcanologists or geologists, but
not on Fridays.
No.
You just play one on TV when you stay at Holiday Inn Express.
I've seen examples of volcanic activity started by very little by throwing in a petrol can, a gasoline tank or something into a volcano. But water, I'm not sure.
I
I'm not sure how that works.
The water would get turned into steam, no doubt, and there would be an explosive reaction of the steam. So I could imagine the chamber of the volcano acting as
like a pressure cooker.
Yeah, like a pressure cooker, and maybe the mountain itself being demolished or destroyed in some part due to the pressures of the water being instantly turned to steam. But would that then trigger the eruption? Would that trigger the flow of magma and all of the volcano? Magma. Thank you.
Sorry. I ask for sharks with frickin' laser beams.
Thank you, James. I love it. I absolutely love it. It actually fits here.
Sea bass. I was looking for the sea bass. Are they ill-tempered?
If we're not careful, Alan's going to bring out his laser
magma.
So I'm still not sure this is how volcanoes work, but even assuming it is, let's keep going because I think my biggest gripe is actually after this. So the shockwave hits the village. I buy that, right? We do know that a volcanic eruption does create shockwaves. There was that one in Tonga not too long ago that actually generated a shockwave that went all the way around the world multiple times, measurably. So of course that fits. The orcs begin their escape, and then you start getting the debris, and I'm talking massive debris. This isn't
that was
small
shocking.
rocks.
Yeah, I mean, and flames, and taking out people that we've seen before.
Recognizable people no longer recognizable, including some of the orcs too. I mean, the volcanic eruption was not discriminating between the good guys and the bad guys here. Obviously, chaos ensues. This is dogs and cats living together. It's terrible. We get Isildur worrying about Bederek, Elendil worrying about the Queen Regent, Ontama worrying about Valandil, and Arondir and Bronwyn worrying about Theo. I mean, it's just all one big
chaos.
Oh no, what about this person? What about this person? And okay, so we're going to get to the Adar storyline in just one more second, but can we talk about the fact that the show ends with this wave of volcanic ash and gases coming towards the village, coming towards Galadriel, who's standing facing it as though, well, it's a little bit of a storm. I'll just stand here and face this volcanic storm.
Face the pyroclastic flow.
Thank you. Pyroclastic flow.
If she's taken her mithranium, I could understand it.
She hasn't,
but she hasn't. So how is she going to stand up in the face of a pyroclastic flow?
Can we? I think Herculaneum wants a word, and maybe even Pompeii wants a word here, because pyroclastic flows when a volcano erupts like this, and that's exactly what this was, right? This is a superheated a collection of gases and debris coming down the side of the volcano, anywhere from 300 to 500 miles an hour. The temperature in these pyroclastic flows ranges from 300 degrees Celsius to 1,000 degrees Celsius. We're talking about the kinds of temperatures that would instantly boil the blood of a living creature in milliseconds, killing anything. There's nothing that can survive this.
No. Not even a Galadriel.
Not even a Galadriel. Yeah. Not even a Galadriel that can swim all the way from Valinor to Númenor. I'm struggling with this stuff.
Not even if she's had her Wheaties this morning.
She has definitely. She's had a whole box of Wheaties.
If only we had a wheelbarrow.
And a Holocaust cloak. Well, then we'd have a real plan.
Why didn't you list that amongst our possessions?
Oh man, this is great stuff. Oh, the dread pirate Roberts is here for your souls. Sorry,
TikTok
I had to finish
boys,
that.
TikTok.
No survivors.
So again, I really don't. I'm not going to die on this hill
unless there's pyroclastic flows. You will.
That's true. I will die on this hill because I can't survive 500 degrees Celsius. You guys agree this was maybe in many ways the best episode so far?
Oh, yes. Yeah. In terms of pacing and twists and turns and excitement, I was glued to this one, which after last week's...
Can I just use the word debacle? Because I'll just use the word debacle.
Go ahead and use the word debacle. Okay. It's a good word. It's an excellent word, and it really does describe last week's episode. But this week's episode was it was so tense and exciting and everything moved at a pace that would rival the charge of the Rohirrim. I thought it was really good.
And I didn't feel the overwhelming presence of the mystery box. And so because of that, I want to forgive the pyroclastic flow failure here. I want to sort of like just say, okay, but I struggle with that because for me, Tolkien made his world believable. And for me, that
science wants a word.
Exactly. Exactly. Even in a world that's a fantasy world that has a lot of crazy things like the world is flat right now and all of that, I still think science wants a word.
Mm-hmm.
But now we get to the storyline that I've been wanting to get to. And sadly, we're already running long, but at this point, we're going to just do what we need to do. And this is the Galadriel, Halbrand, Adar line. This is the section of the story that frankly kept my attention the strongest and really drew my interest in. It's not so much about the scenes in terms of cinematography or any, like, the chase was great. Fine. It was wonderful. The music was nice, though I have to admit it had a sort of Duel of the Fates feeling the way the choir was singing. It sounded very much like the early parts of the Duel of the Fates.
I'm glad you thought so too.
I waited for them to, be like, oh.
Yeah.
We do get an attractive female elf riding a horse in slow motion saying Norolim. I would have been not surprised if the horse's name turned out to be Asphaloth, actually. It was like, I was almost expecting it at that point. Then we get the part that matters, right? After he gets spilled from the horse, Adar, that is, he goes to try to get the hilt, and Halbrand pierces his hand with the spear.
Mm-hmm.
Can we talk about that moment? Because Halbrand comes so close.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. But there's a lot to say about this moment, actually.
Yes, there is.
Apart from the fact that Halbrand seems to be getting very close to the dark side, Darth Halbrand.
Darth Halbrand, yes.
There's actually a little bit of dialogue there that is worth focusing on. First of all, Halbrand says to Adar, "Do you remember me?" Adar looks at him, doesn't look one bit confused.
No.
Just says, "No, I don't." I'm not sure if I believe that. Halbrand says to Galadriel, "You don't know what he did." Okay, my first question is, what did he do? But Adar looks at Halbrand and he says, "Did I cause someone you love pain?"
Yes.
A woman? Perhaps a child. And he puts so much emphasis on the word child.
Yes.
Now, there are two ways of reading this, okay? First of all, did Adar kill Halbrand's child for some reason? Or, and here's the one where I'm really deep diving into the conspiracy theory about Halbrand, right? If Halbrand is Sauron, hear me out.
Yep.
If Halbrand is Sauron, and we know from the conversation that's going to happen in a bit between Galadriel and Adar that Adar got pretty sick of Sauron abusing and using up his children. Yes. He's looking up at Halbrand and he's saying, "Did I cause someone you love pain? A woman, perhaps? Or a child?" Is he actually turning that around and saying, "You cause someone I love pain, my children"? I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I mean, I love that because of the way he's saying it. The way he delivers that line. It's like, oh, did I cause you pain?
Yes.
If someone you love, did I all of a sudden? Yeah, all of a sudden. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And maybe he doesn't remember him because you look different to the last time I saw you.
I know who you are, but I don't recognize you visually.
And so when later he asks, "Who are you?" He doesn't ask, "Who are you?" He asks, "Who are you?" So there's a question wrapped up in there that is more than just "Who are you?"
Yeah.
It's
right.
Who are you in this moment?
Yep.
Who are you right now? Who are you who just saved my life from Galadriel?
Yeah.
So I'm just throwing this out there because I think there was a heck of a lot more to that conversation than seemed on the surface. You can read it in two different ways, which of course is deliberate.
Oh, of course. Yeah. This may be the one spot where the mystery box showed up, but it was done reasonably well in comparison to some of the other clumsy attempts. Yeah. You really get to hate Adar here, don't you? I'm with Halbrand. I want to poke a hole through his throat too. I mean, he's just absolutely being Yeah,
but that's because you're making assumptions
of course.
about Adar here. and not making the same assumptions about Halbrand. So if we see it from that point of view, actually maybe Halbrand has done more to Adar than Adar ever did to Halbrand. Who knows?
If Halbrand is Sauron.
If Halbrand is Sauron.
If Halbrand is Sauron, Adar that's some guts.
Yeah.
To talk to Sauron like he may be the only person that's ever talked to Sauron like that.
My goodness.
But then we don't know what's happened in the past. If Adar has taken a bunch of orcs away and brought them south to get away from Sauron. And then, of course, he says to Galadriel, and we will get to that conversation in a second, he says that he killed Sauron.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not sure about that, but we will get to that. In fact, let's get to that scene now, right? This is the meat, if you'll pardon my using the word, of the episode, and it's the interrogation of Adar by Galadriel. We get the origin of orcs, right? The elves captured by Morgoth. And she uses a word here that I'd not heard before. I don't think it's in any of the Legendarium, but it's an interesting word, Moriondor.
I think it's in the Lost Road. Is it in the Lost Road?
Yes, it's in the. It is. Yes, I believe so.
That's where it is. It did sound vaguely familiar, but I couldn't place it. And I did a quick ebook search in the Silmarillion and Unfinished Tales. I knew it wasn't in the Lord of the Rings. So it does mean what she says then, a son of the dark.
Yeah, and she actually uses plurals, sons of the dark.
Yes.
So
one of the sons of the dark.
Exactly.
Moriondor. Well, yeah, because Mor, that prefix Mor is dark.
Just means dark. Yep.
Yeah, Mordor is dark land. Moriondor, son of the dark. So the first orcs, or as he would put it, Uruk. He does not like the name orcs. Yeah.
Yeah, and we, again, there's plural. We prefer Uruk.
And now that's where we get the confirmation, right? Yeah, he's saying, yes, I am that. And we prefer the word Uruk. I thought the next little bit was interesting, right? She wants to know where Sauron is. He doesn't want to answer. And Galadriel, in the first of several glimpses of her darker side, simply suggests we're going to torture your troops. We're going to drag them out into the sunlight and let them fry. That's disturbing.
Very. And it gets more disturbing, doesn't it?
It does.
Yes.
It really does. And so it does bring up something out of Myths Transformed. Even before this wickedness of Morgoth was suspected, the wise in the elder days taught always that the orcs were not made by Melkor and therefore were not in their origin evil. They might have become irredeemable, but they remained within the law. That is, that though of necessity, being the fingers of the hand of Morgoth, they must be fought with the utmost severity. They must not be dealt with in their own terms of cruelty and treachery. Captives must not be tormented, not even to discover information for the defense of the homes of elves and men. I think that standard, though we read later in that paragraph, this was the teaching of the wise, though in the horror of the war it was not always heeded, kind of gives us a real glimpse into the tension here that we see with Galadriel and her willingness to resort to torture.
Yeah. And of course, this is the moment where Adar agrees that he will speak because these are his children.
Of course.
And he still thinks of them as his children. But let's note that when she says, "Where is Sauron?" his first response is to laugh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which, again, if Halbrand is Sauron, it's no wonder he's laughing.
Yeah.
Exactly. Where is Sauron? Well, he's outside having a beer.
Yeah.
Right.
But then we get this story about Sauron. And at first, he's describing a Sauron you might not recognize, one who devoted himself to healing Middle-earth and to bringing the lands together in perfect order. I mean, this is Sauron putting right what Morgoth did, if you like, because Morgoth wanted to just completely destroy everything. But the first picture of Sauron is of this person, or this being, not person, this being, who wanted to bring everything together in perfect order. Now, that, of course, depends on your definition of perfect and order. If it is perfect in Sauron's eyes and ordered as he wills it, then that is not necessarily what somebody else might think of as perfect order. But then it talks about this power that we first heard about in those first two episodes.
Yeah, when they were up in the north, right? The power of the unseen world.
Power of the unseen world.
We even get flashbacks to that fortress
to
the orcs sort of embedded in the walls and, the destruction that Sauron caused in trying to find this power, not of the flesh, but over flesh. And that's when Adar talks about the losses of his children. We get once again that reference to family. And this is when he claims that he rebelled and killed Sauron.
Yes, he says, I sacrificed enough of my children for his aspirations. I split him open. I killed Sauron. Interesting language.
Can I just come back to the whole unseen world and the necromancy and so on?
Please do.
I'm wondering if this is setting us up to have a better understanding of the Nazgul. I'm wondering if, in a way, it's through the rings that Sauron is ultimately going to accomplish his goal in terms of the unseen world. Because I think we're going to presumably see the creation of the Nazgul. And in order to do that, we've got to have some sort of understanding of what the unseen world is. You know, we sort of see the final results in Lord of the Rings, but in terms of understanding that process, it seems like it's something Sauron's tried before, and this is and the rings are actually going to turn out to be the mechanism that works.
Well, it certainly does, really. I mean,
this really connects with a theory I've had for a while about what happens when you put on the ring. It seems that you go invisible. I don't think that's the case. I think actually the putting on of the ring slides you almost sideways into a different world in which the Nazgul are permanently. So, you know, when they're interacting with our world, if you like, they have to clothe themselves and be mounted upon horses and things like that to get around. But actually where they are is in this liminal space, this world to one side of our world that you get to move into. If you put the ring on, it pulls you into that world. So you can't be seen anymore from our world, which is why the Nazgul can't be seen. If their black cloaks aren't on them, there's nothing there, right?
And yet that's a gradual thing, because for so long they were wearing their rings and were, you know, became men of power and of wealth and status and all that. So, that's a fascinating idea. I certainly can't disagree with it. It makes a lot of sense that going into Wraith world, if you will, is a lateral move into, like you said, a liminal environment. Yeah,
and over that period of time, it brings them permanently into that world. That's now who they are. Whereas for Frodo, because he only puts the ring on a few times, he moves sideways into it, but then removing the ring takes him back out again. Yeah. Whereas the Nazgul can no longer do that.
Well, and of course, it puts him in immediately because it's the one ring. Whereas for them, of course, they were rings.
They've got other rings,
lesser power. Interesting. I want to get into the metaphysical stuff here. This was the nut of the whole deal, right? The idea that they're slaves. No, they're individuals with hearts. The hearts are created by Morgoth. No, we're creations of the one. Let's talk here about orc rights. What's the story here, and how does it relate to their origin story? Keeping in mind that the show obviously is going with the Silmarillion version, which is that they are twisted elves.
Right.
And yet we know that Tolkien, over the course of his life, did change his mind many times on this. And if we look at the most recent writings, that is the things that he wrote latest in his life, he was coming around to the idea instead that they were corrupted men. Talk a little bit about that in the context of their origin and how that matters.
It matters in that we're getting the choice of the origin story that we see in the Silmarillion, the one that Christopher Tolkien chose to go in the Silmarillion. We're getting that. But that has led to seeing the orcs as simply evil. That's it. They're just one amorphous mass of evil. That is how they've been depicted in Jackson films and other adaptations. That is how they are seen. But we know, as you were just saying, Alan, that Tolkien had problems with the idea of any being that is irredeemable. That really clashed with his own personal religious beliefs. Okay.
I think he especially had a problem with that if they were immortal souls to begin with. That's where I think we really run into a conflict, and why eventually landing on the idea of them being corrupted men does change how that works.
Right. Yeah. So what we get here is we get a moment almost of humanizing the orcs. Now, let's remember that not all humans are good. Okay. So even if we're humanizing orcs, we're not making them good. Necessarily.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Adar points out that each one has a name, a heart. And that means that they are individuals. They are living, breathing creatures with thoughts, with feelings, with ideas, with relationships. And we've had that emphasized since the beginning of this episode with the idea of them being a family. And then he goes on to say, because he counts himself among them. We are creations of the One, master of the secret fire, the same as you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is so important.
It's hugely important.
Yeah, he's placing them in the same kind of status as Galadriel. So no, we are children of Ilúvatar.
Which, no matter whether they're corrupted elves or corrupted men, we know that's actually false. No matter how much he protests that this is the case, how is that the case? Right? Just because he says it doesn't make it true.
No, but he believes, I suppose, that because each one of these orcs is a living creature.
Yeah. With individual sentience, right?
They have a beating heart. They have a name. A name is so important, right? If you have a name, you are a person. You are something to be recognized as an individual.
Right, yeah.
Exactly. Galadriel obviously has a real issue with this, but what I loved about this moment, it really does show up her darkness, is that Adar tells her this, humanizing, individualizing these orcs. Her response sounds like genocide.
Yeah, it does. Well, it is. It doesn't sound like it. It is. It is, I vow to eradicate every last one of the orcs except for you, who I'm going to keep around so that I can, make you watch me kill all your children. I mean, it's...
Right. Basically, it's a fight to the pain rather than a fight to the death.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Fine. And next comes my ears. No, your ears you keep, so that you may hear the screams of every child saying, "Dear God, what is that thing?" All right, enough Princess Bride for the evening.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can keep going, Sara, if you want. Just tell me.
She says they are a mistake.
Yeah.
Made in mockery. And then she says to him that she will eradicate every last one from the earth, even if it takes her the rest of this age to do so. Yeah. And then, as you say, she will keep him alive. I mean, this is torture. Yeah. She will keep him alive until she's killed the last of his children, and then she will come and kill him.
Yeah.
I mean, wow.
I love his response to that, though.
Yes.
When he says, "I'm not the only elf alive transformed by darkness."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then he says, "Perhaps your search for Morgoth's successor should have ended in your own mirror."
Yes. Brutal.
Wow.
And yet not entirely uncalled for, given... Okay, can we acknowledge that she's right when she says they were a mistake made in mockery of elves? We know that if we're going with the Silmarillion origin story, they were made in mockery of elves. They were not they were not new life. They were twisted, corrupted life in mockery of the elves. That's absolutely true. But then she takes it from there and says, "I'm going to eradicate every last one of you. I'm going to wipe you all out like vermin, and then I'll kill you at the very end." It does seem awfully dark. And yet, can we acknowledge that in the Legendarium as it is written, orcs don't serve a purpose other than to be killed? Really?
Certainly in Lord of the Rings, right?
Yeah.
Forget what Christopher chose to put in the Silmarillion. Fair. I don't think there would be any question in Lord of the Rings that, of course you eradicate them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't think there's any question. They don't warrant protection. They don't warrant mercy. You don't torture them, right? You don't sink to their level. I think, we see some hints of that when Gandalf's talking about Aragorn's, hunting and things like this. But we do kill them. And that's okay because of who they are. So obviously Adar is making his pitch, but it is really a twist on what the Legendarium says about orcs. Mm-hmm. And this is also, I think, where he loses the moral high ground, right? And we've talked about this earlier. He's suggesting that, we're as worthy of the breath of life, we're as worthy of a home as you guys. Okay, let's assume that that's true. Let's assume that the elves have for a long time been violating the orc rights and that they deserve to have a home. Okay, let's maybe draw them up to the level of the petty dwarves, who the elves were hunting as if they were just dumb animals, maybe out of ignorance. Fine. Okay, even if we raise them to that level and they're worthy of a home, does that change when every single action of the orcs is to kill and destroy everything they see? Mm-hmm. Adar isn't trying to negotiate a peace here.
Right.
No, he is not. No. It's like I said earlier, it's want, take, have.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
he says we're as worthy of the breath of life and as worthy of a home as you guys. But what he's really saying is we're the only ones worthy of the breath of life and the only ones worthy of a home. And we're going to take your lives. We're going to take your homes.
Mm-hmm.
So his actions really belie what he's saying here.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how I see it, at least.
He's a bit ends justify the means, isn't he?
Very much so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even if there's a touch of truth in what he's saying regarding Galadriel specifically and her sort of genocidal tendency here and willingness to torture.
Mm-hmm. And Galadriel snaps.
Oh, yeah, she does.
Having just literally 2 minutes ago promised to keep him alive forever until she's killed every last one of his children.
Yeah. She changes her mind right quickly.
No, I'm going to kill you right now.
And she comes awfully close, a couple millimeters away.
Halbrand. Yeah, Halbrand stops her.
Yeah. Yeah. He returns the favor. So Adar has been saved twice, once by Galadriel, once by Halbrand, which seems a little odd.
Yes.
Who knew?
But then we get that shot outside with Galadriel and Halbrand. It starts, though, with Galadriel sitting by herself, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's reflecting on her actions. She looks at Adar's blood on her dagger. And then that's when Halbrand arrives and she thanks him for pulling her back.
It's a bit of a strange moment.
It is.
Actually, it's kind of first date awkward.
Yeah. And I got that vibe, too. This whole idea about I really like fighting next to you thing was a little troubling for me.
That's not creepy at all.
Celeborn wants a word.
Yes, exactly.
Telep Orno.
Telep Orno wants a word. Going back to I'm throwing that out there theory that Halbrand could be Sauron. As we know, anybody at this moment is Sauron. Everybody is Sauron.
I'm thinking Arondir, actually.
Arondir could be Sauron. Yes. Yeah, indeed. So right at the very beginning of episode 1, the first line we get is nothing is evil in its beginning. Okay.
Right.
We also know that there is a moment in time where it's almost like Sauron is trying to redeem himself. You find it in the Silmarillion. There's just a moment where is he trying to be good?
Even if it's just self-preservation.
Even if it's just self-preservation, he's willing to kind of consider it. Right. Okay. So here we have Halbrand saying, I never thought I could leave behind all the things that I've done until today, fighting side by side with an elf.
What about a friend? Yeah, I didn't get that. I didn't like that line. That line didn't ring true for me. It didn't seem genuine.
Felt forced. Yeah.
Yes.
If he is Sauron or somebody equally manipulative, well, I don't know, equally manipulative, but up there.
Similarly manipulative.
Right up there, yeah. We expect him to constantly be playing to what people want to hear and so on. And I wonder if that's what he was doing there with Galadriel.
I think so.
Well, he's shown himself to be very good at that in the past.
Oh, he sure has. That was a great discussion. I got to say, I really, really enjoyed this episode. Like you said, it is certainly the most interesting one so far. Perhaps the fewest problems, even if it still has them. Definitely an enjoyable episode. But folks, that does conclude another episode of the Rings of Power Wrap-Up. But please be sure to join us again next time when, well, we learned that pyroclastic flows aren't as bad as our friends in Vesuvius said they were.
Well, they can't be. Look at Galadriel standing strong in front of it.
And then Elendil and Isildur and Miriel, and they're all dead.
That would be a really, really quick end to
Welcome
the
to the
Rings of
Third
Power.
Age. Yeah, exactly.
Poof, it's all over in a puff of smoke. Anyway, moving on. Thanks to the team that helps us get this show out there every week. Our speedy editor, Jordan Ranells, our barleyman, Becca Davis, social media manager, Casey Hilsey, and our very famous website guru, Lieutenant Phil Dean.
Yeah, exactly.
And speaking of the website, give us a visit there at ringswrapup.com. We've got show notes, our online storefront, and eventually some outtakes.
Including probably from today.
You'll also want to take a look at our library page. This show may be about the Amazon adaptation, but the three of us are first and foremost fans of the books. So we provided links for you to get all the lore. We do get a few pennies from the purchases you make there, so thank you in advance.
Indeed. And one last thing, as always, don't forget to send your thoughts, comments, and most of all, your elementary school science fair volcanoes to Barlaman at theprancingponypodcast.com. And if you want a chance to have your actual voice heard, you can send us audio of you asking your question by visiting podinbox.com/prancingponypod and record your question for us.
But be sure to send the question to Barlaman too. Now, we've been able to rely on Barlaman lately, but we do get a lot of mail, so we'll get to you when we can. Your question or comment may be featured on a future episode.
As always, though, this has been far too short a time to spend among such excellent and admirable listeners. But until next time.
Farewell, friends, and may you dodge all the arrows.
And volcanic rocks.